All right. Good morning, everybody. I hope that you have had a wonderful convening experience. And we have just been so glad to hear the content, to hear your feedback about this opportunity for you all to just have some additional training, some additional information to empower you as volunteer engagement leaders. I am so thrilled to introduce to you all Natalie Paquin, Esquire. She is the CEO and president of Points of Light Foundation. And many of you are familiar with Points of Light. Many of you have probably attended their conferences, but they are the lead, the premier organization internationally, nationally, when it comes to volunteerism, service, corporate social responsibility, many areas of volunteerism and service. And so it is a real treat for us to have her with us today to share about service and catalyzing civic culture. So I want to share a little bit about her, and then we'll go ahead and get to her presentation. So Natalie is the president and chief executive officer of Points of Light, as I mentioned. She is a visionary and results-oriented leader with a strong track record of performance and transformation in turnaround and high-paced organizations. Prior to joining Points of Light in 2017, Natalie served as chief transformation officer at Girl Scouts of the USA, where she was responsible for strategy integration and was the key face and spokesperson for aligning and unifying the Girl Scouts Federation of 112 councils around the strategy. Natalie also served 5 years as chief executive officer of the Girl Scouts of Eastern Pennsylvania, the state's largest girl-serving organization and among the largest Girl Scout councils in the nation. She began her career in the nonprofit sector as Chief Operating Officer of the Kimmel Center for the Performing Arts, after having been a volunteer, helping the center think through its education and new audience development programs. She is actually an attorney by trade, and she, for more than a decade, has been a director on a corporate board. She currently serves as director of Univest Corporation of Pennsylvania and is a former director of National Penn Bank Shares, which was acquired by BB&T. There are plenty of other components of CEO Paquin's biography. I encourage you to read them, but really what it comes down to is service. She has experience in the nonprofit, the business sector, the government sector in many ways. And so we are just so happy to have her here with us today. Please be thinking as she shares. If you have any questions for her, we'll have some Q&A time when we finish up hearing from her. So with that, I would like to turn your attention to CEO Paquin.
Thank you for joining us, and it's such a pleasure to be here. I recall a few months ago when I received the invitation to speak with you that I was very excited, and excited because I am a fellow Floridian. I was born and raised in Miami, went to school in Miami, and I believe that the fact that we're the Sunshine State is because there's so much light in all of us, and Floridians, we're a little extra, just a little extra, extra light, that is. So Points of Light, for those of you who know Points of Light, thank you. And for those of you who are learning more about Points of Light, I'll start with our belief. We believe in the power of people. We believe that every action matters. We believe that no act is too small. Our mission is to inspire, equip, and mobilize people to take action to make the world a better place, to do good in their community. And we also believe that together, we are a force that will transform the world. Points of Light, we've been around for 30 years. Many of you may remember President George H.W. Bush. We affectionately refer to him as 41. In his inaugural speech, he spoke about the concept of 1,000 points of light. And that was really about the fact that he believes, as we do, that the solution to every problem begins with the person in that community who steps up and says, I can help. So for 30 years, we have actually been growing. We sit at the intersection of corporations, nonprofits, and individuals. We are a global organization. We're in over 200 cities and 37 countries. Each year, we, with the support of our network, mobilize over 5 million people, and they contribute over 14 million hours of service. So pretty spectacular, the amount of human power and human energy we are able to support and lift up. Almost like there's a story I want to share with you. One individual, his name is Brandon Griggs. We at Points of Light, we issue a daily Point of Light award. It is recognizing a person in their community that's doing good. And Brandon, a fellow Floridian, he's from Jacksonville, he received Points of Light award number 6,790. And so Brandon, this is, during the pandemic, Brandon actually could not complete his homework. He was doing digital learning, and he was having problems because he didn't have a computer. And so Brandon actually went into a local store, used the computer and the internet at his local store, and thought, well, if I'm having this problem, it's likely that others are having the problem as well. So he met with his school board in Jacksonville, and he founded an organization called Hear the Youth. And Hear the Youth was really one of the first things that they did was work on the digital divide, and through partnerships with other organizations and corporations in the community, Brandon, through his leadership, was able to help secure laptops for over 3,000 families, and also create hotspots for 3,000 families. And so you can imagine the impact on students who were unable to complete their homework and unable to, really participate fully in digital and remote learning. And through the leadership of Brandon, many families are. And so I would say congratulations and thank you to Brandon. Well, what it also reminds me is that Brandon was not just plus one. He's not just one individual who's doing good work. Brandon actually is a multiplier. When you reach out to partners, when you work with others, when you focus on a problem and bring a solution forward, you're not just one person adding to the solution, you actually are a multiplier. And, I would ask all of you to think about your multiplying force and how you can solve problems with the support and partnership of others. And it's really what I think about Brandon and I think about others, is it's really about time and intent. We have to be intentional with our time. The beauty about time, it's an equalizer, is we all get 24 hours. Doesn't matter who you are, your day's not going to be longer. You're just going to get 24 hours. So the question is, what do you do within those 24 hours? We learned in February of 2020, this past year, it was the Nielsen study, that Americans spend a staggering 11 hours and 54 minutes. So that might as well be 12 hours. No, yeah, because 60 minutes is an hour. Americans spend almost 12 hours a day connected to some form of media, be it TV, radio, your telephone, gaming. That is a lot of time being connected to media. And so what else could you do with that time? If you dialed it back 1 hour, if you dialed it back 2 hours, what else can you be? How else can you be more intentional with your time to do good, to solve problems, and to help others? We know that volunteers don't just see themselves as volunteers. According to the Corporation for National Community Service, they issue a report on volunteerism each year. That report, the last report, said that 30% of people see themselves as volunteers, but 62% say that they help in other ways, that they are leading and lending support to causes they care about in other ways. And so for us, at Points of Light, we really thought about that. And we said, well, what's happening? Where's the disconnect in those numbers? If you have 30% who say that they volunteer, but 62% saying that they give back in other ways. So we went on this journey a few years ago, and it was during our strategic learning process. Most people call it strategic planning, but I like to say you're learning so much, so it was a strategic learning process. And one of the questions we asked ourselves is, how do we leverage technology? You know, what else are people doing? And how would you describe what they're doing? And there's this concept that we came up, and it's called a Civic Circle. You'll see an image of the Civic Circle. And this Civic Circle really captures all the other ways that people are getting involved, the ways that people are leading and lending support to causes they care about, the ways that they are moving issues forward. And we, as organizations that are engaged in volunteerism and supporting volunteerism, we actually have a secret weapon, and that is the volunteer themselves. However, that volunteer, you have to look at them in a very holistic way. That volunteer has purchasing power. That volunteer has a voice. That volunteer can donate. That volunteer can vote on issues that support your mission. That volunteer can choose a place to work or choose not to work at a place whose social agenda is consistent with the issues that you care about. That volunteer may be a social entrepreneur who actually wants to move this issue forward on their own time and through their own work as an entrepreneur. Or that volunteer could have come to you having spent a year in service, like with AmeriCorps, working on that issue. And so the question is, how do you leverage all of the talents, all of the superpowers that volunteer has to help move your agenda forward? And what does that mean for nonprofits who are working in the volunteer space? How do you equip them in ways to help move your mission forward? We believe that these powers holistically, that historians will look back on this time and call it the civic century, a time where people were intentional about how they moved issues forward, how they solved problems, and used all of their powers to do so. And there's a role for all of us to play. And so here's one of the things that we did. We have this concept, and you think it's a good one, it's resonating with people, we're taking it out, we're sharing it, we're getting feedback, but we also conducted some research. And it was with the partnership of Carol Cohn on Purpose. She's an amazing professional. Heart Associates research organization, amazing partner. And it was with the very generous support of AT&T. And we wanted to validate this concept of the Civic Circle. And here's what we learned. We learned that the research was conducted this past spring. It was post-pandemic and pre-Floyd. It is important because if you go to our website at pointsoflight.org and download the research, you'll see some nuances in the research in terms of people's motivations. And before I share a couple of statistics, I will tell you a little bit about the methodology or the people that we interviewed. We actually interviewed or surveyed over 1,400 people across the United States, and yes, there were some Floridians there. We had an oversampling of Generation Z and an oversampling of millennials. We included Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, baby boomers, yay for the boomers, and the silent generation. And one of the things that we learned, there was a question about will you be more engaged, about the same, or less engaged in volunteerism and working in your community post-COVID? And 95% of the respondents said that they will continue to engage at the same level. 73% agree that volunteering post-COVID will be more important than ever. We're seeing a lot of that around the United States through our global network and I know that you're seeing it in Florida, that your volunteer associations are being called on more often, more frequently now. People, and this is a very important point, people are thinking globally, but they're acting locally. I was recently on a panel, and one of the questions that was asked was, so what resonated the most with you with this research? And there were two things that resonated. The first thing that resonated is Gen Z, they are not accepting the world as we are delivering it to them. It is not going to work for them. And so they are taking action and they are very, very engaged. And the second point that resonated, which I think you will find very interesting, in this world where hierarchies are being dismantled and we have an on-demand culture and people can go out and basically do and get anything on their own. The second point was the people who were surveyed said that they are looking for thoughtful leaders, organizations to help them volunteer, to help them engage. And so what does that mean? It means that there's a role for us to play. There's a really important role for us to play. They are looking for experts to help leverage, manage, draw out their energy, draw out their talent, and direct it in areas that will be most useful. And so I'm really excited about that research. 70% agree that it's important to see the results with their own eyes, so there is a slide in the research, again, it's at pointsoflight.org, that talks about what the volunteer experience needs to be like, what it needs to feel like, how will it resonate with people and individuals. And again, 55% say that they want to focus on issues in their community. And so that means you, that means us, that means people are thinking globally, but again, they are acting locally. Gen Z, there is a little pullout about Gen Z and how engaged they are. They are the most civically engaged group, and 39% of them, nearly 40% of them said that they participated in 5 civic engagement activities within the last month. And so if you remember that Civic Circle and the engagement activities are, did you volunteer? Did you vote? Did you donate? Did you use your voice on social media? Are you buying or not buying based on a company stance? Gen Z, 40% of them said yes, all 5. There are at least 5 things that I did or didn't do within the last month. So, the one thing that I would ask you all to do, and we actually struggled with this a few years ago in our strategic learning process, is perhaps ask yourself a new question. I like to say, do we want to be who we want to be, or do we want to be who the world needs us to be? And if you're responding to the latter, like we want to be who the world needs us to be, because every product and service is a solution to a problem, then what does that mean for you? For us at Points of Light in our global network, what it meant for us is that we needed to ask ourselves a new question. The typical question was, how do you get more people to volunteer? How many people volunteered? How many hours did they volunteer? And that is important because volunteerism is at the core of what we do, and leveraging human power and human capital is really, really significant, and we can't solve our problems without it. But we also asked ourselves a new question, and that new question was, how do we create a society where it is easy for a person to accelerate change in their community and the world? And so if you unpack that, that is about removing barriers. How do you create a society where it's easy for a person to accelerate change in their community and world? It really makes us think a little bit more holistically about what we're doing, how we're doing it, how we're relating to the people that we support, how we're relating to community, If you're a corporation, it is how are you relating to your employees? How are you relating to your customers? And what do you do intentionally with your time? And how can you begin to map the assets that you have? So what do I mean by that? I like to say that everyone comes to the table with assets, and you can use those assets to unlock the assets of others. If your volunteers are, if they're creative writers, if they're strong communicators, if they're talented with technology, how can you take those assets, leverage them to support your community, to solve your problems, but also to unlock the assets of others? So it's really important for all of us to understand our board members, our volunteers, our colleagues, our friends and family who are moving our issues along. What are the assets that they have, and how can we leverage their assets to unlock the assets of others? And we can't go back. And, you know, I also ask myself, so what? You know, in this Zoom world where we're all, yes, we're all, you know, experiencing these webinars and seminars and hearing wonderful presentations and learning a lot. So what does it mean? So why does it matter? So what do we do? We like to say at Points of Light, it's about the power of one. Remember, one action, no act is too small. So the power of one is really taking one idea, one concept, and moving that forward as one individual and sharing that one idea, one concept, one solution that you will commit to moving forward. You know, we can't go back. Our world has changed. People talk about, you know, there's going to be a new normal. We would ask, what is the better normal? How can we create a better normal? How can we create the world that we want to see? The world where there is no one on the sidelines, the world where there are no barriers to entry to doing good, the world where empathy defeats apathy. I'm sure we'll do it, and we'll do it with Floridians leading the way.
Going to introduce CEO Natalie Paquin to you all again, hoping to hear from some of you in the audience. Please let us know if you have any questions, any thoughts about civic engagement, maybe what you have seen over the course of the last 7 months or so in terms of changes and shifts. What do you think about the research that you just heard? I know somebody put the link in the chat, and then it's also available in the session detail, but what CEO Paquin mentioned just about people's interest in continuing to serve, you know, all of those thoughts that she shared, please let us know if you have any comments or questions about those. So CEO Paquin, just want to say thank you so much for your message. Just really powerful, and for commissioning research. We know that it's so foundational to be able to have statistics and information, not just anecdotes, even though those are really powerful as well. So welcome.
Thank you, Jovita, and please call me Natalie.
Okay, I will do that. I will do that. So I know that you mentioned this, but you know, just that the concept of a worthwhile experience for a volunteer, you know, which certainly can change depending on the you know, the gender, the age, the rate, you know, who somebody is individually. Kind of some of those components may be different, but overall we saw that worthwhile experience has some very specific components to it. So I'd love for you to reiterate what some of those things are.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, let me just back up and share with your audience just a little bit more about Points of Light, and then we get into the worthwhile experiences for those of you who don't know us. Points of Light, we sit at the intersection of corporations, nonprofits, and individuals who really want to do good, who want to volunteer and make a difference in their community. Our mission is to inspire, equip, and mobilize individuals to take action. And in that, we have done this research that is really about volunteerism and really about a special experience. And before I get into that, I do have to say we have a conference each year, and next year our conference will be in Orlando, in Florida, and so that's July 14th through 16th. And so I encourage you all to go to our website, and hopefully I'll see you in person next summer. But Jovita, when we start thinking about, what makes a volunteer experience really a powerful experience for that individual, and why will they come back? There are 8 factors, and so I'm just going to share those factors with my fellow Floridians. The first is it discoverable? So can that experience be easily found online? The second is it local? Does it address the issues that are important to my community or important to the community? And has the community been engaged in solving the problem? Is it credible? So the experience that volunteers are looking for, and this was what was really pleasing about the research, is that they want to work with organizations that are local, that actually have expertise, that are familiar and have trust and respect, which we call great currency with the community. Is it social? So does it allow me to invite my friends and family? I know that during this COVID period, and we'll talk a little bit about that we're doing virtual volunteerism, but virtual volunteerism can also be a social experience. The fifth characteristic of a strong volunteer engagement is it authentic? Does it explain why my actions matter up front? And so it's really about letting people understand the impact of their work. And is it personal? Does it allow me to engage with the beneficiaries? The impact is authentic and impactful, really are, I would say, cousins, which is, am I going to be able to see the outcome of my actions? And then the final is it repeatable? Am I able to come back and do this again and share this experience? And so we're really excited to have learned those characteristics from the over 1,400 survey participants that we reached out to across the country.
Thank you for that. And again, that information is available in the research that Natalie talked about. Those are really just excellent points. We know that many of you already kind of have those values, that value add built into your volunteer experiences, but it's a great reminder. And then there may be some that were a surprise to you, or some that you may be able to grow in or find more opportunities to provide that return on investment and excellent opportunity for volunteers. So hopefully that is helpful to you all. And I do think it's just really great insight. So I have a couple of other questions. Again, anybody who has any, please feel free to put in the chat. And we do have a couple of inspiration videos that we can also share that are introduced by Reba McEntire. So we may be able to give you guys that treat as well in just a minute, because those are, I think, just great inspirations as we were continuing to finish this conversation. But I did want to ask you about what organizations need to do to catch the post-pandemic wave of engagement. I just think it's such a brilliant question and way to think about volunteer engagement, to think about planning is, all right, like what are we going to do next, and what does that look like? So maybe you can spend some time talking with us about that.
Yeah, so one of the lessons we learned and insights we learned from the survey is that 95% of the participants said that they will be active and engaged as much or more post-pandemic. So people really want to stay involved, and that's what's inspiring, is that we've learned that the power of the human spirit will not be denied. You know, humanity is humanity. We love each other, and we really, really want to support each other. But you know, what's important is for organizations to understand what they're going to measure. And so, you know, really figuring out what that impact is, how are you going to measure it, to be prepared with their communications. How will you communicate? How frequently will you communicate? What will you communicate? One of the things that we've learned over the years, and I've learned over the years, is sometimes you can't control a situation, but you can control the communication around that situation. And so you can control the frequency of communication, so there can be a high touch, and you can control the quality of communication. And so that is very, very important for nonprofit organizations, volunteer engagement organizations in particular, to one, understand the impact and be able to communicate that. And then focus on delivering a high quality experience. You know, we know that the number one reason why people volunteer is because they're asked. The number two reason why they come back is because they understand the impact. But if you want them over a lifetime, you have to give them a very good experience, which means if I am volunteering to paint a classroom in a school, if I show up as a volunteer, please let the school be open. You know, like, please, I mean, honestly, this has happened where the custodian with the keys wasn't there. He didn't get the memo. Please make sure we have all of the paint and the materials and everything that you need or we need, so that you can leverage my skills in the most optimal way. You know, yeah, send me photos of the classroom with the students in it afterwards, so that I can see that they're enjoying this new environment. And so it really is being prepared for your workforce, because volunteers are people who are taking their time, and we know time is a precious commodity. We all only have a certain amount of it, but they're taking their time, their passion, their energy, and they are sharing it with you. And so we want to make sure that we give them a wonderful experience.
Fantastic, thank you. I have been a volunteer who has experienced the not enough paintbrushes and some of those things, and wanting to feel valuable, you know, based on my time, and also just genuinely wanting to serve. So just really great points. Thank you. I do have a couple of questions here in the Q&A. One, Sharon. Hello, Sharon. It's good to hear from you. She, first of all, thanks you for what you've been sharing, but really great question. And I'm sure others have had this tension in their organizations, but what are some tips to help move the needle in an organization from philosophically embracing volunteerism to truly accepting it as a strategy, and then actually moving resources to help with volunteer program development?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. Thank you, Sharon. And I would say that one is the person or people who lead the volunteer initiatives. Where are they? Are they at the table when conversations around strategy are being discussed? And if they are at the table, then do they come to the table prepared? Do they really understand the data? Can they articulate the value of volunteer and volunteer engagement? And if you can't, then I would say be prepared to do that. Like, understand the value of an hour of volunteer time. Understand the fact that for one volunteer, I believe it's like 6 other people are impacted by the help and support of a volunteer. And then I would also say find advocates, you know, or find a champion. We say you really need a champion. That champion needs a partner, and that partner brings forward a friend. So if you can find a champion in your organization or someone who influences others, and that champion can, bring a partner, and that partner brings a friend to really talk about the value of volunteerism, that could be a very good start from a strategy perspective. The last point I would say is that things don't happen without people. And volunteers are people, and they represent people power. And yeah, so it's your human capital that you have to invest in.
Thank you. I love that, just in terms of having a champion and being strategic in that way. It's great. And getting to the table, how critical that is in terms of strategy. Another question, Irene, thank you for your question. How does a local municipality volunteer coordinator, what do you do to start working with Points of Light? Like, you're a volunteer engagement leader for a government group. What are some ways that Points of Light could serve that individual, and that individual could serve Points of Light? What are the connect points?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Irene. And I would say visit our website at pointsoflight.org. But we also have it's a certification. It's called Service Enterprise, where we engage with leaders who are engaging volunteers. We certify them. There's a curriculum and a process in terms of how you become more efficient, more effective, more impactful in engaging this volunteer workforce. And so there's potentially an opportunity to become a service enterprise hub. And then we also have, we are just launching actually this web portal. It's called Points of Light Engage. And Points of Light Engage is a web portal that will have lots of tools and resources for state agencies, for volunteer organizations. And so I would encourage you to go to Points of Light Engage and just take advantage of all the resources that we have.
Great. Thank you, Irene, for your question. And you can sign up for Points of Light newsletters. If you go to the site, you can do that, and then you get to hear all about the great work that Points of Light is doing. There are blog posts by Natalie that are always really inspiring, very up to date, very timely, addressing service and what's going on in terms of our societal changes. So I encourage you to do that. Thanks. I believe Lizzie just posted the website for Points of Light Engage. So plenty of resources there for you all. Thank you so much, Irene, for your question, and Natalie for sharing that resource with us.
Yes, you can also always follow us on our social media, in social media. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, what I'd love to do right now is to share one of the inspiration spotlights. I think it would just be just a really great way for us to start kind of wrapping up. So can you just tell us real quickly in terms of the Points of Light Award celebration, what these spotlights are, what we're gonna watch, what the context is?
Oh, God, yes. Thank you. Well, first of all, Points of Light, we issue a Daily Point of Light Award. It started over 30 years ago, and Daily Point of Light Awards, and we would encourage you to go to our website and nominate people to receive these awards. It is really about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and being recognized by our organization sometimes allows people to get even more attention about the work that they're doing. So we just started 2 years ago a program. Last year was the inaugural year. It was called the George H.W. Bush Points of Light Awards. And this year we had to celebrate the awards virtually. And so in doing that, we created this inspiration wall. Actually, you created the inspiration wall because we had people from all over the country, really all over the world, sharing stories about people who inspired them. At our celebration, Reba McEntire actually introduced many of the people who were featured in that inspiration wall. And I have to say that they bring a lot of inspiration to me. And so thank you so much for sharing them with your audience.
Wonderful. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do that. Let me get all of this set up real briefly. Hold on one second. And let me share my screen. We're going to take a look at one of the inspiration spotlights.
shine a light once again on some of our brightest and best examples of individuals making incredible contributions to their communities.
I have been working with the Community Society in New York since 2013. They called me up and I go directly to a school. They select certain students for me to work with. And those students will work at two levels. One is at the basic academic, but also in my conversations with them, I do things to motivate them. I think that, it's a circle. So as somebody helps me, I help somebody, and so on. And one of my fraternity brothers reached out and asked if I could provide funds one day for National Guard, the medical students, everyone that were initially starting this drive-through testing, and it was just interesting at that point. So I challenged myself to get 5 days meals, as well as another partner was able to bring an ice cream truck down for 2 other days. At the end of the day, those times we are going through right now, whatever we're going through right now, find ownership of something and find a reason for wanting to be better. And if everyone does that, we can create a better, more holistic world.
But in order to not practice, we're aiming to make sure that every citizen can use their power to do good through volunteering and civic participation. We act as a connection point between citizens that want to volunteer but don't know where to start or have to keep 2 hours here and there and not have to have needs, but are not quite set up to organize government help. Everything we do is based on the belief that the issues we face are collective issues, and we can face them together. The Points of Light Global Network has been an endless source of support and inspiration, and it's been a very eye-opening experience. We realize that what we think is a local issue is very often has a global issue.
When the COVID hit and United States as we went March, it was very hard for us because I went on Vietnamese radio and TV stations to help the communities easily decide over what is COVID symptoms and where could we go for testing. I organized that with a lot of help from the community, especially the media and the Vietnamese Sports and Science Association, helping to organize all of this in just one week. Caring and loving giving back to the community is very important, and especially in the pandemic, is the awful position as my profession. I'm lucky to be in position to able to help. If you're as inspired as I am by what you see here now, then I ask that you join our team. Help Points of Light keep our mission and our programs going by supporting us in any way you can. Thank you.
Wow. There are many more of those from the Points of Light Awards. I've put in several of those spotlights into the session detail. Again, going back to the session on the agenda and clicking, you'll see some links there. I want to thank you, Natalie. I don't know if you have any last minute words of encouragement for our attendees.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to you, Jovita. You are indeed a light and lighting the way. Thank you for this engagement of people in Florida who are really trying to make a difference in their communities. Thank you, Volunteer Florida. And thank you to all of the attendees. I mean, you all could have been anywhere today, but you chose to join us. You chose to come and learn a little bit more about how to be more effective in engaging people. And we just say, light the way, continue to be a light, and soldier on. Thank you.
Well said, Natalie. We are just so thrilled to have had you. And thank you to everyone, all of you who've participated in the convening. We hope that you'll complete surveys about our sessions, as well as the general survey that's available about the convening. We would love your feedback. The recordings are being uploaded into this in terms of being on demand. They're being uploaded now. So if you check tomorrow, probably Monday or so, any of the sessions you want to look at again or that you missed and you'd like to review, you'll be able to do that. All of the materials that any of the speakers had, those will also be available. We'll be sending you an email with all this information as well, but we are just so thankful for your willingness to participate in the convening. Volunteer Florida is here to support you in the work that you do with our grants, with our training and resources. So please visit www.volunteerflorida.org for more information about the work that we do. And again, I want to thank CEO Natalie Paquin with Points of Light.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye, everyone.